Hello, and welcome to More to the Story with Molly White, where we talk about what the abortion industry does not want you to know. And I'm so glad that you joined me again today for another very informative and powerful podcast talking about abortion harm. Before I get started in introducing my awesome, wonderful co host, Mary Browning, I would just like to give a shout out to our show sponsor, Dr. Stephen Hotze, with the Hotze Health and Wellness Center out of Katy, Texas. If you want to stay healthy and not get sick, then this is the medical place you need to go to, the Hotze Health and Wellness Center, because that is their focus is on keeping you healthy. And they've been keeping me healthy for a long time, and I'm very grateful for that. And I also would like to thank all of you who support this podcast with your very generous donations on a monthly basis. It really goes to help us cover expenses and keep this podcast on the air. So we thank you very much for that. And now I'd like to introduce my awesome, wonderful co-host, Mary Browning.
Thank you, Molly. It's good to be on the program again today. And as we so often do, we have someone today that will be talking about an abortion experience. So we want to really warn the listeners. If you find yourself having an emotional reaction, we would call that a trigger. And that would be, we think of that as an invitation to another level of healing. So lean into that and make sure you take care of yourself, do some self-care, and look forward to some healing. So thank you, Molly.
Amen. And they can go to, I think you mentioned the OperationOutcry.org website for information about abortion recovery programs, or contact the H3 helpline number as you see on our screen. I don't know if you said that, Mary. I might have gone blank.
I forgot, so thank you.
So the helpline number is 866-721-7881. And this helpline will help you find an abortion recovery program in your area, or be able to minister to you where you're at and what you're dealing with at the moment. So our special guest today, Mary, I'm real excited about, because I'm always excited to have men on our podcast, because abortion doesn't just hurt women, it hurts men, it hurts family members, and really hurts everyone in our society. And his name is Sean Corcoran, and he is the CEO of Men for Life. So Men for Life is a national pro-life nonprofit organization. He's also a national speaker at pro-life fundraisers and events, as well as men's conferences. So we're excited to introduce Sean Corcoran.
Hey, how are you guys?
Good. Well, thank you for coming on. Hope I didn't butcher your name too bad. but
It's fine.
But please kind of introduce people a little bit about yourself, and then we kind of want to go to your backstory after that.
Okay, my name is Sean Corcoran. I am married. I have 5 kids. I'm married to Dr. Michelle Corcoran. She's a dentist here in Lake Charles, Louisiana. My oldest is 10, and then I have a 9-year-old daughter, 2 6-year-old boys, and a 5-year-old daughter. The youngest 3 are adopted. The 2 boys are 10 days apart. And the older 2 are biological. I'm an attorney. I practiced for 10 years, and in 2021, because I was, I just recognized that I was working all the time and I was not present even when I was home with my family. I wasn't being the man I wanted to be, or the father that I wanted to be, or the husband I wanted to be. So, after a lot of conversation and prayer, we decided that I needed to find something else. And so I stopped taking clients in 2021. I closed down my office in 2022. And around that time, Men for Life started asking me if I would come and run the organization. And I said emphatically, no, there is no way I am going to run a nonprofit. I don't know how to do it. And I have a really good idea how much money you get paid. And I've got 5 kids. And I said no for about 18 months. And then we stopped talking. And I was on an airplane on the way to meet with a business consultant with all these business plans I had to create a business that would give me the freedom to be home, but still make money. And while I was on that airplane, God said, "You're going to go run this nonprofit." And it was very clear. It was not a question, right? It was a command. And so I got off the plane and I went into that meeting and I said, "Here's everything you asked for that we've been working on for the past year. but this just happened. And I really wanted the consultant to say this is a horrible idea, so that I could turn around and tell God, sorry, but blame him, right? Blame the consultant, not myself. And he said, this is a great idea. I think this is going to get you everything that you've been telling me that you're trying to get out of life, and that you're going to be happy with it. And I will help you to grow this organization as part of what you've already paid me.
Wow.
So I got back on the plane and I sent an email and I said, hey guys, I don't know if you're still looking, but if you are, I'll take the job. And that was June of last year. And in August, I accepted the position as CEO of Men for Life.
Well, how did you discover Men for Life? How did y'all get connected?
So Men for Life discovered me, I guess is the easier way to say it. Just going back to the beginning, to kind of share my story. I was a 19-year-old freshman away at college, and my girlfriend came into my dorm room and said, I'm pregnant. My mind immediately went to, okay, how's this going to change our lives? Like, what do I need to do? Planning for how is a baby going to impact my life, or our lives. And while I don't remember, I must have been verbalizing this stuff because she stopped me and she said, well, I'm not going to have the baby. I'm going to have an abortion. And that was something I didn't know how to react to. I didn't know anybody that had had an abortion. I knew what abortion was, but I didn't really know it was something people did. And so, I argued against that. I called my dad. He drove 9 hours. Her mom flew into town. They met. My dad said that he and my mom would adopt the baby. We tried everything that we could think of, and we lost. And so I spent the rest of that semester staring at the wall in my dorm room. I failed out of college. I moved back to Lake Charles. I failed out of college here 2 more times. So now I failed out of 2 colleges 3 times. And by 2005, December 13th, 2005, I was at the end of a 7-year methamphetamine addiction. I was homeless. I was unemployed. I was lying on a dirty hotel room floor, overdosing, and waiting for the police to come and arrest me for stealing from my previous employer. And, throughout that 7-year period, I'd prayed so many times, God, just get me out of this one more time. Right. And so there was nothing in me that believed that, I didn't believe those prayers anymore. If you get me out of this one more time, I'll stop, because I couldn't stop. And so there was nothing that in me that believed that God believed these prayers. But on that hotel room floor, I wasn't really concerned about myself. I was really scared that I would die and that I would embarrass my family. And I'd already severed all those relationships, and that I'd embarrass my family when when I was found dead of an overdose on a hotel room floor. And so I was praying that God would let me live so I could escape that for them. And he did. And I woke up the next day and my head was more clear than it had been in that entire 7-year period. I went straight down to my truck. I reached my hand in the back, where everything that I owned was, and pulled out a pamphlet for a treatment center that had been in there for about 2 years, and went back to the hotel room and I called them and they said I could get in that day.
Wow.
So I drove to treatment, and I told my dad, hey, this is what's going on. I'm about to get arrested, but I can go to treatment. And he hadn't talked to me in weeks, because I'd stolen from them as well. He finally had set up boundaries to protect himself, my mom, my brother and sister. And he said, you should go and just tell them where you're going to be. And if they're inclined to come find you, they'll find you. And so I did that, and I went, and I drove in a truck that hadn't had an oil change or maintenance in about 5 years through a national forest, just praying. This is before smartphones, just praying that just let me get through this forest, because nobody wants to be stuck in the middle of a forest without a phone. And I got through the forest, and when I got to Shreveport, Louisiana, where the treatment center was, my truck started shaking. because there was hills, and I started praying, "Hey God, just let me make it to the parking lot." And I made it to the parking lot of the treatment center, and I pulled in the parking lot, and my truck broke down, and I had to push it into a parking spot.
Wow.
Wow.
Can we stop right there for a minute? Because you've unpacked
Yeah,
so much and it's
Yes.
been so good. And I want to continue on, but I wanted to give ourselves a little couple of minutes to kind of ask some questions.
please.
Um, so, one of my first thoughts were when you were sharing about your girlfriend telling you about she was being pregnant with your children, and she decided that she was going to have an abortion. Um, that's just kind of one way that abortion impacts men. There's several ways that a men are involved in an abortion experience, and one of those is really not being involved, not having the opportunity to raise your child or to have a voice in a decision in that process. And so that's a very devastating position to be in, and what you experience afterwards, your life spiraling downward, is very common from what I understand, and it's common with women as well. Women do the same thing. We can get into drug addiction and just self-destructive lifestyles. But what would you say to a man who's listening right now, who may be in that position, that right now his girlfriend is contemplating on boarding their child? What would you say to him in hindsight of your experience?
Yeah, so I think that's a great question. And and I feel like what I'm about to say has been validated by research. I'm working right now with the Vitae Foundation on a new men's study that they're doing, and one of their studies, this is what they researched was the messaging that women in that situation are hoping for, right? It certainly is never whatever you want to do or your body, your choice, because that's an absence of an opinion, right? That's the absence of masculinity, and that's not what a woman wants to hear when she's in a vulnerable state. Is I can't make a decision about whether or not we should have a baby, because that's just going to make her feel like she's alone. It's going to make her feel like you're not going to be there for her financially, emotionally, relationally. In my situation, I was concerned solely about the baby. It didn't occur to me to speak to the concerns of the mother, and that is where I would tell a young man he needs to be focused. Part of being a man is accepting that responsibility. It doesn't just mean, hey, I want to have this baby. It means the responsibility to the mother as well. And so it's important, I think, to let her know that you will be there for her during the pregnancy, that you will be there for her and the baby after the pregnancy, that she's not going to have to do this alone, that she's not going to have to bear this burden by herself. And again, when you say your body, your choice, I'll support you, whatever you want to do, you're literally telling her the burden's on you. Like, you have to make the decision. If you make the wrong decision, it's your fault. Like, I'm staying out of it, right? And I don't think that's always the intention, because I think we've been told by society that that's the right thing to say, but it's the wrong thing to say.
But in reality, it's the wrong thing. Mary, did you have something?
I just wanted to then make an observation. Thank you for that, Sean. But
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to make an observation that actually you did go to bat, at least for the baby, and your mom and your dad, when your dad came and said, "We will adopt the baby," basically removing the if the burden of raising the child was the problem, your family stepped up, and I want to acknowledge that. Because so for you, this kind of happened to you in the sense of you didn't. You told her, I think you told her that you wanted the baby, or you
That's correct.
wanted the, yeah. And so I just want to acknowledge that. And also on behalf of a woman that has had abortion in her past, I didn't, that's not my situation, but if no one has ever said to you they're sorry that you were cut out and you were treated as if you didn't have a say or a role in a very important time, I just want to say I'm sorry to you on your behalf and on behalf of other men in your situation. And I just want you to know how grateful I am that you're stepping into this space in terms of the sacrifice that you made, maybe not at that time, but later when you got into this arena. So just thank you.
Thank you.
Um, I think that's what I wanted to mention.
And I had another question too, and I know it's kind of early for you in this whole process, but have you had contact with the mother after the abortion since that time, I guess?
One phone call. We didn't talk about that at all. I don't even know how she found my phone number. It was a very brief phone call. It was awkward, uncomfortable. There was no connection. So,
And give it time. It may be. And when you walk through this process of healing and recovery, then maybe the Lord will open up that door, and maybe she was trying to reach out to you, but, didn't know how to, didn't know what to. But we're praying that there's some kind of reconciliation, some kind of healing during that time. And so,
I do have a question. I do have a question for Sean, if you don't mind.
oh,
And this is related to, oh my gosh, I lost it. I had it. I'm sorry.
the mother, the reconciliation. Nope. Well, when it comes back to you, jump in there, Mary.
Okay, I
But I
will.
guess we'll move forward
Oh,
because
I know what it was. Okay, so
you
I
guys are my
think
kind of people. This is how I have conversations.
this is raw and real right here. Raw and real.
it's raw and real. I just wanted to be sure our listeners understood this because I think Molly did make the statement and you affirmed it, but you do connect what happened, the spiral. You're failing out of college, 2 colleges twice, another college, because you failed 3 times, right, out of college?
Correct.
Do you understand? And then the meth addiction, just the complete downward spiral. Do you connect that with what happened with your girlfriend and the baby?
100%.
Okay.
And,
All right.
and I didn't make that connection during that period, but when I got into treatment and the counselor started walking me through my life, and kind of getting to that point, once I got to the abortion and then started moving on, she stopped me and she said, "Hey, I think we should talk about this." And that's the first time anybody wanted to talk about it, right?
Yeah.
But at that point, she was also the only person who knew about it, other than the mom, her mom, my dad. My mom didn't even know about it, from what I understand, until I was in treatment, and they were coming to visit. And I think my dad realized, hey, we don't know what's going to come out here, and that's when he shared that with her. So she stopped me, and we talked about it, and that was when I was given permission, right? Given permission to grieve, given permission to mourn, given permission to actually feel something. Because prior to that, the last conversation I'd had was, it doesn't really matter what you say or what you think. This is what we're going to do. And so that was kind of how I internalized it. You can't do much with that other than shove it down, And when my dad left me at school, he said what we say to men, put your head down, work hard, push through it. And that's not where I was at. And so
He probably stuffed his emotions as well. It's kind of what I believe men do. It's too much to
100%.
process, too much to deal with at the time. Just stuff it and just keep moving. And
100%.
that's what a lot of us women do too. Is just too traumatic. It's too much, too hard to deal with. So let's just try to put it behind us and move forward. But it follows us everywhere through life. If we don't reconcile that trauma, that regret, the remorse, the grief, if we don't process through all of that, it carries on, it follows us, and it comes out and manifests in different ways. And it's not uncommon. The drug abuse, the dropping out of school, maybe even ruining your career, your whole life changes, and your whole life changes. And sometimes, like you said, you can't connect the dots until somebody helps walk through that. And I'm really surprised that your counselor dwelt on that. I'm
Yes.
surprised that she didn't just put that behind us. Oh, that wasn't the abortion, because we've heard
Mhm.
it so many times.
Yes.
And so praise
Yes.
God for your counselor.
Mhm.
To,
Well, not only that, it wasn't like, hey, let's talk about it. She that's, I guess, before we went on, we were talking about healing, and that's really where my healing journey started. She had me name my son. I named him Michael. She had me write letters asking for forgiveness for my younger self, asking for forgiveness for Michael, forgiving his mother. Um, and so it was more in depth than, hey, this is the trigger that led to all this destructive behavior. It was, how do we work through this?
yeah, praise God.
Mhm.
And so
Powerful.
which I understand are parts of abortion healing retreats as well.
Yes.
It is. And that's
Um,
why I'm kind of blown away, because you're thinking, wow, how did she know to even ask these questions? How did she even know to the importance of naming your baby, finding the gender, naming, writing letters, seeking forgiveness? Was she, I guess, a Christian counselor? I'll have to assume. Or was she a
I would
Christian?
assume she was a Christian counselor, just because I think it's a fair assumption that most counselors in Louisiana are Christian.
Mhm.
About
I don't know that.
Yeah, but it kind of hints to that, because
Yeah,
the forgiveness is a huge part. Forgiving, being asked, asking God to forgive us, forgiving others that are involved in that decision, and then forgiving yourself. You're not forgiving yourself of a sin; you're forgiving yourself for sinning, or for doing something that goes against our natural human instincts.
right.
And that's a very important part of healing. So we kind of moved forward a little bit. So you got to the parking lot. And it's incredible, because I want to point out how God moved through this
Yes.
whole
Mhm.
experience, and through your testimony, and how speaking to you, and how He got you, to this recovery center, and in making it to the parking lot, you had to push your car into the parking space. But I think God was saying, "Hey, I'm doing all this for you. Now you do this part,"
Right.
and then taking you in, and starting your recovery journey, and even the counselor He gave you. I mean,
Yeah.
I see God all in this. So
Mhm.
now you've got to the abortion part. Do you feel like that was kind of key to your addiction healing?
I think that it was necessary for me not to relapse. If that's
Mhm.
if that's a
Okay.
good way to answer that
Yes.
question. I think that if that emotion is what if that was the void that I was trying to fill, and I hadn't identified the void, then I would have gone
Mhm.
back to trying to fill it, right?
Right.
Mm.
Um,
Absolutely.
I think that once we addressed that, treatment for me was a matter of abstinence, I guess, from drugs, and having that time period. It was a 30-day program. I stayed for 45 days voluntarily, because I wanted to get a family day out of it, and there was a limited number of families that could do that every 2 weeks.
Ah.
So I stayed for 45 days, and I had nothing else to do. I had nowhere to go. I had nothing else to do. So it wasn't like, and I was safe. As soon as
Mhm.
as soon as that truck died, like I knew I was safe.
Wow.
Like I knew that was where I needed to be, and that I couldn't go anywhere else. Like I
You
was
didn't have
safe
any way out.
from
Jump in
me.
your truck and leave. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Awesome.
Wow.
and people did leave, while we were there. Like people
Sure.
did leave before the program was over.
And you kind of
Mhm.
wonder, what's their backstory? Does it have abortion in it? 'Cause it kind of makes you wonder. But you talked about your parents coming, and then your mother finding out. Um, and you talk to them about, how that abortion impacted you, and how did it impact your parents?
I don't know that we talked about it then. We have certainly talked about it since. My dad, independently of what I'm doing, and this is for years, has been very active in the pro-life movement. Supporting the local pregnancy resource center. He is one of 3 people on a billboard campaign here in Louisiana on I-10. They have billboards with pictures of babies at certain developmental levels. Just kind of putting it out there. And then next week, he and my mom, I guess, donated to our church to have this huge prayer garden built, with statues and stuff. And he showed me, and they don't want their name on it because that's not why they're doing it. So he showed me the dedication last week, or this week, when we were in Florida, and he's dedicated it to Michael and to all the babies that have been aborted. So
that's powerful.
So this impacted them, tremendously.
It does.
They walked I don't know if you're familiar with the Camino, the 500 miles that St. Paul walked, and they walked that, dedicated to babies.
And it was a healing experience for them as well. Yeah. Because it does, it does. It impacted my parents. It impacted our relationship, and once you're able to deal with that together, it's a beautiful thing. God can really create something beautiful out of what was so traumatic and so hard.
I just want to step in because I think I misheard something that you said earlier, Sean. You said your dad offered to adopt the baby. Was it your dad and her mother? Because I thought you said your mom and dad, but did you say your dad offered to adopt and her mother offered to adopt the baby?
No,
they met.
No, my mom was not there. My dad came into town and met with her mom, and to her mom
offered to adopt.
I don't think my dad had direct communication with the young lady. I think our parents spoke.
Thank you for clarifying. I misheard that then. So when your dad came into town, he met with her mom and offered to the mother that he would be willing to adopt the baby.
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Got it. All right. Thank you. I'm sorry.
He and my mother would adopt. I guess he didn't ask. Yeah. He didn't ask my mom if she didn't know about it.
He just knew.
He just knew.
Yeah.
Well, and like you said, he was involved in pro-life activism before all of this.
No. I don't think then. I think, but he was involved in pro-life activism since before I had become involved in pro-life activism.
Okay. And let's talk about that. So you mentioned that earlier in your testimony. So you went to law school, obviously, passed law school, passed the bar, practicing law, wanted to spend more time with your family, and were approached by Men for Life, and you went through, I'm not going to do that, not going to do that. And then God spoke to you.
Yeah.
And so that door was opened, I think it says here, in August of 2024.
Yes. Almost a year.
So almost a year. Congratulations. And so let's talk a little bit about what is Men for Life and what's your I guess, mission statement. What is your purpose?
So Men for Life was started in 2018 by a young man, and I think probably inspired by Lila Rose, who was 15 when she started live action. He was about 15 when he started Men for Life. I think he's 21 now, maybe 22.
Wow.
And he works full time at Louisiana Right to Life. So this is more than just a passion for him. This is his life. And the initial mission statement was to encourage men to be informed and active participants in the pro-life movement, to protect life at all stages by encouraging men to be active and informed participants in the pro-life movement. When I came on, we agreed to change the mission statement to empower men, because I think that we want to do more than just inform them. We want to call them to action, right?
Yes.
I think it's important that men are not sitting on the sidelines, and I think it's important that someone is calling them to action. 52 years we've had the pro-choice movement, or the abortion industry, saying, "Hey, men, you stay out of this. Like,
Yeah.
you just sit down." And at the same time, we've had the pro-life movement, who's been so focused on mom and baby, as they should have been, that they overlooked the men. And so while one side is screaming, "Sit down and shut up," there's nobody saying, "Rise up," right? And
Right.
it's not up to the women to call on the men to stand up and fight, right? It's we're to blame. The men are to blame for sitting down, for accepting that, right? For saying, "Okay, well, we're just going to sit this out," because that's not masculine, right? That's the antithesis of masculinity. To
Yes.
say, "Okay, well, if you tell me that I shouldn't do anything, then I'm just not going to do anything, even though I can see that this is evil and that we need to have a fight." So we at Men for Life are calling men to action.
I love that. It's a call to action. I love that.
Empowering men. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what men need. I mean, I'm not a man, but I do know that, abortion is really emasculating.
Yes.
And then the abortion industry wants men out of it because they know what an influence men have in the family and in relationships. So of course they're going to go for the head and
Right.
try to decapitate the head. But now it's time for the head to just take that rightful position. And we as women are very happy for you to take that head. And we're happy to work along beside you because God created us from your rib, not from your foot. And so
Right.
we need you, we want you, we welcome you to work right alongside you. But we do need the men in this movement and men to reclaim their masculinity, reclaim their headship. There's nothing wrong with it, no matter how loud the feminists scream about it. And even I think hardcore feminists, of course, they're very angry at men for some reason, but even deep down inside, they want a man to be a leader,
Right.
So
Molly,
you through.
I'm
Okay.
just looking at our time and wondering if we should consider a part 2 for Sean, because I feel like we're just ramping up to getting to a lot of meat with him. I mean, the whole thing's been meaty to me, but I'm wondering if we should be considering a part 2 for our listeners.
Well, absolutely. I would love to have a part 2, but I do want to mention before that, because we're hot on the topic of men, and we want men to be able to have an opportunity to contact you, which our producer has your website there at the bottom of the screen, Men for Life, right? Let's see, menforlife.org.
Correct.
And then I did want you to touch real quick that you're got a book coming out at the end of August.
That's
Can you
right.
tell us about that?
So, and it kind of touches on what we were just talking about, and it's focused in 3 different levels. One is, we've got this epidemic of fatherlessness, and we can talk about that, but we don't really need to because everybody understands it. And so what it's led to is boys and young men not knowing what it means to be a man, right? Not having any male role models. And so, so I believe, and right now the pro-life movement is on fire about reaching these young men at that point before the abortion. And so this book is geared towards inspiring them to biblical masculinity, explaining it, helping them to understand it, inspiring it to them, but also calling on men in our generations, which I use that term as broadly as it needs to be used, which is like, let's say 26, 28 to 60, right? In anywhere in between, to lead these young men, because we also need to reclaim our masculinity, and part of that is mentoring the next generation of boys and young men. So calling on them to do that. And one of the ways they can do that is by stepping into the pregnancy resource centers where these young men are, because they're going to be able to connect with the young man who comes in an unplanned pregnancy much easier than, the female staff members.
Right.
And so that's the second. And then the third is to the pregnancy centers, helping them to get that messaging to those young men and to the man volunteers. So the book is called The Catalyst, How Men Can Change the Culture and End Abortion. I believe that if we raise generations of good biblical men who, because of that identity, are life affirming, it's not about just drilling into them, you're pro-life, you're pro-life, you're pro-life. It's about building them into men who are pro-life. And so that's the name of the book. It will be out at the end of August.
Great.
And
So will that information be on your website when it comes out?
the book will be
Yes.
on the website when it comes
Yes.
out.
Okay.
I got the cover back yesterday, so I actually posted the cover on social media today. But it will be on the website. It'll be available to purchase on the website as well. My ultimate goal is to have it in print in my hand by the last week of August, so that I can have it with me at CareNet conference. But I'm not making any guarantees because I don't control the publishers.
Well, I understand that. Well, thank you so much for that, Sean. And I just want to say that if you're looking for a speaker that is bold and courageous to share his personal story and to encourage other men, to witness to other men, to bring other men alongside in their healing journey, then please reach out to Sean at his website, menforlife.org. Sean, thank you so much for coming on and being with us. We look forward to part 2 on this, because I do know there's a lot more to unwrap, especially with men and abortion and the important work for Men for Life. And we're grateful for you to be on the show.
Thank you so much, Molly and Mary.
Thank you. And Molly, I might just mention for the men out there that have heard this, you are invited to sign a declaration just like the women are. If you go to operationoutcry.org, if you recognize the harm abortion has caused in your life and you want to go on record with that, you can do that in a way that you leave your full name or only your initials.
Hello, friend. Our broadcasting wanted to take a moment to personally thank you for being a listener of the More to the Story podcast. Whether you're a longtime subscriber or just found us, we're so glad you're here. This podcast is a community built on sharing, and that's where you come in. If an episode has ever resonated with you, please consider sharing it. Text it to a friend, post it on social media. Your recommendation is the most powerful way to help these important stories reach new ears. We are also inviting businesses and individuals to partner with us as official sponsors. Sponsoring the podcast is a wonderful way to reach a dedicated, thoughtful audience while directly supporting our mission. If you'd like to explore sponsoring the podcast, we invite you to visit our website at www.moretothestorypodcast.org. Again, that's www.moretothestorypodcast.org. Thank you for being a part of our story.